Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the first Blender Challenge of 2024. We are going to create an animated globe because I'm conscious that we haven't actually done much to do with textures in a 3D world. So let's introduce the concepts and see what we can make. Normally, if we want to make a sphere, we'll start with a cube and add a subdivision surface modifier, so Control and 2, right click and shade smooth, which we could do, but it doesn't work all that well, and I'll show you why. So I'm deliberately going to do it wrong to begin with because it's worth explaining how. Then I've found a picture of the globe and I've saved it as a JPEG, which you'll need to do. I don't need to show you how to do that. You can do that in your own time. What we do need to do is add a texture. So if we click on the material properties, you can change the color of the whole sphere, but remember you can't see that unless you go onto materials mode. So the whole sphere at the moment, every vertex is all the same color. We don't want that. Instead, let's click on the blob next to it and say set the color of each vertex and everything in between based on an image texture. Then we can open an image texture, and I've saved one in pictures. I think I called it something, hopefully like globe. I've got some weird pictures in here. There we go. Oh, earth texture. That'll do. Now when you start, it looks horribly distorted with some discontinuities, and it looks nasty. That is because we've got a 3D object with a 2D picture. And that's what UV stands for. We've got X, Y, and Z in 3 dimensions. And to avoid any confusion in 2 dimensions with X and Y, we use U and V for the 2-dimensional X and Y. And you can see here we've got like a box splatted onto a 3D object. Again, we need to go back and make it so that we can see the colors. And you can select all of these vertices. I'm going to press 3 to select a whole face and move it around the map and see how it affects things. And it's almost impossible with a cube to make it look nicely. What you can do is put your mouse over it and say, right, select everything, A, U to unwrap, and sphere projection. It does a reasonable job, but it's still not right. So let's try again. Control N, start again. This time, X to delete, Shift A to add. Let's add a UV sphere. This means it's not subsurface modified, it's just made up of UVs, made up of rectangles. We can right click and shade smooth and follow the same steps. Let's add a material, a new material. Let's use an image texture. Open that same image again. I think it was from pictures. Come on, little globe texture, where are you? Yeah, there it is. This time it should look much better. There we go. Not bad. So how did that work? If we go on UV editing, it's kind of taken those UVs, those rectangles, and it's splatted them across the map. And you can kind of see how terrible maps are. Because in 2 dimensions, it makes Africa look quite small, whereas in reality, Africa is humongous. And actually, the politics of how maps work is a big issue that we won't go into with this video. But that's what I want you to understand. UV wrapping or UV unwrapping is where you take a 2-dimensional object and you splat it onto a 3-dimensional shape. All that you need to do then, back in layout mode, is animate it. So on your timeline, let's go to frame 1. Put your mouse over the globe and press I to insert a keyframe, and I'm going to remember the rotation. Then if we go along your timeline, I'm going to go to frame 100. Let's say R to rotate, Z to rotate around the Z axis, and then type on your keyboard 360 enter. We've rotated it by 360 degrees, and I'll do the same thing. I to insert a keyframe, press rotation on here to remember the rotation, and hopefully it should now go from 0 degrees around the Z axis all the way to 360 degrees. All we need to do now is loop it from frames 1 to 100. Right, let's try. Current end frame is 250. Let's set that to 100. And I'm rather hoping it will loop round. Last time I did this before, it only went half the way round, which would not be good for people in other countries. So this doesn't have a nice smooth animation. We could change that outside of the scope of this video to tell you how to do that. You could put that as a globe in a little stand. You could animate the camera to make it move around. But see what you can do. It doesn't have to be a picture of the Earth. It could be any planet or any picture. Have something with a texture on a sphere that has some kind of animation. If you want, the globe could go round a solar system. See what you can do.